should know the fullness of his financial entanglements with the President of the United States of America. It is absolutely unconscionable that the Senate continues to confirm people that have financial entanglements with the President. That goes to their objectivity when it comes to issues regarding the President of the United States and his interest when it comes to separation of the powers and more. And
Welcome back to Freedom Forge. If you believe in defending the Constitution, protecting the integrity of our institutions, and standing up for equal treatment under the law, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest coverage. Today, we're looking at a heated Senate confirmation hearing that quickly turned into a political confrontation over President Donald Trump, judicial nominations, financial relationships, and questions about judicial independence. The hearing focused on a nominee who is currently representing President Trump in legal matters, while also being considered for a lifetime federal judicial appointment. Senators questioned whether that relationship creates a conflict of interest and whether the nominee's past writings and financial connections should impact his confirmation.
Senator Booker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schwartz, the independence of the judiciary is vital. Sacrosanct, I would even say. And I have some concerns that right now, today, are you personally representing Donald Trump in his criminal appeal in New York?
I am, Senator.
And the man who's nominated you to a lifetime appointment as your client, he owes, his PAC owes you, is it $400,000 for legal bills?
Senator, I actually have no idea what the financial amount is.
But he has paid all his bills now?
Senator, I don't handle that aspect of the relationship, so I really couldn't confirm what you're saying.
So can you name, in all of American history, one federal appellate nominee in any time in modern history who was actively representing the president who nominated him at the moment of his nomination? Can you name in any time in modern history that we've ever had a situation in our democracy where a president has nominated someone who is representing them? Can you?
So, Senator, start out, as I said earlier, if I am confirmed, I will recuse myself from all cases in which I've represented the president and be very cognizant of my duties. Second, Senator, sitting here, yes, there have been obviously 2 prior nominees in this administration who have been nominated, and then obviously presidents have from time to time nominated justices and judges with whom they are very close, they may have worked with previously. So it's not an unusual circumstance, Senator, and as I said, my oath of office will be sacrosanct, and I will recuse myself as appropriate.
So why not disclose any financial obligations this president might have to you? Don't you think that's germane to our evaluation of your objectivity if the President of the United States owes you $400,000?
So, Senator, any amount of money the president would pay would be to my firm, which is obviously a very large firm.
But isn't some of your, I mean, a lot of us were involved in firms, isn't some of your compensation based upon the clients that you represent? Yes or no? Is your compensation based upon the income your firm receives from the clients you represent? Yes or no?
Yes, Senator.
So you're telling me that this body of senators should not know about any financial obligations the president has to your firm and the actual pecuniary, the actual financial benefits that you stand to get from this case when that very president has nominated you. Can I ask you another question? Do you know, yes or no, does the president pay all of his legal bills to the firms that have represented him in the past? Yes or no? Do you know if he's been a good client in paying his bills?
Senator, I couldn't speak to other law firms.
It's well reported, and I'm from New Jersey, he stiffs firms constantly. So this president potentially owes your firm money, you have a financial stake in that, and he nominates you to the bench. Objectively, as a objective person, would that not raise questions to this committee? And shouldn't we ask you what your financial tie is to the President of the United States?
So I'll be happy to clarify that, Senator. My firm has, I've been very fortunate. My firm has revenues of almost $2 billion a year. The amount that we take in or might take in from President Trump, I don't know how much that is, but it would be an extraordinarily small amount, even though it's obviously
Sir, to you it's a small amount. To the average American,
No.
$400,000. If somebody has a stake in with the president to $400,000, a president that has personal lawyers all over his administration, we now see that in the Justice Department, we have his former personal lawyer that has allowed him to set up a slush fund that is paying out people that potentially could have attacked this Capitol. America is seeing right now that this president is turning out to be a grifter who uses his financial relationships to appoint people who have financial ties to them. And then from the people that are negotiating in the Middle East, financial ties to the president. The people in our Justice Department, financial ties to the president. Don't you think you should be more transparent with your financial ties to this president before we have to vote on you to confirm you?
So, Senator, if I'm confirmed, I will resign my partnership at Sullivan and Cromwell. I will make no money whatsoever going forward from any representation that the firm
But you
has.
have made money from the President of the United States in representing him now.
So, Senator, to be clear, the $400,000 that you mentioned, which obviously is a lot of money for the average American, goes to my firm. If there is profit at the end of the year in my firm, I receive a minuscule amount of that money.
Mr.
So,
Schwartz,
Senator,
you wrote, if I may finish, in your college magazine, long time ago, in 1997, titled Married in the Eyes of God, you argued against same-sex marriage and criticized the first same-sex wedding held in my state at Princeton Chapel between two university alumni. Do you still hold those views that you represented in that article back in 1997?
So, Senator, you're asking about personal and religious views. What I will say is the language that I used in that article was harsh, unacceptable, and reflected my views as a teenager.
So do you think it's germane for me to ask, if you wrote an article that said, I hate black people, do you think it's relevant for me to know your views today about your views on African Americans, on Italian Americans, on Catholic Americans, or gay Americans?
So, Senator, I think it's a fair question, and what I would say is, throughout my adulthood, over the last 20, 30 years, and as a professional, I've always treated everybody equally and with respect, whether they are gay or straight. I have a tremendous amount of admiration and respect
I think your views
colleagues.
are germane to the job. I would like to ask the chairman right now, and thank you for the latitude, sir. We should know the fullness of his financial entanglements with the President of the United States of America. It is absolutely unconscionable that the Senate continues to confirm people that have financial entanglements with the president. That goes to their objectivity when it comes to issues regarding the President of the United States and his interest when it comes to separation of the powers and more. And I'm hoping that my QFRs will be answered candidly and in detail. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You folks are dismissed now. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your coming service.
Now let's talk about what really happened here. What stood out immediately was that this hearing seemed less focused on the nominee's qualifications and more focused on Donald Trump himself. Instead of spending the majority of the time discussing judicial philosophy, legal accomplishments, constitutional interpretation, or professional competence, the questioning repeatedly returned to one central theme: President Trump. The nominee was repeatedly pressed about his legal representation of Trump and whether Trump or Trump's organization owed money to his law firm. The implication from Senator Cory Booker was clear. He wanted to establish the idea that any professional relationship between Trump and a nominee automatically creates a conflict that should disqualify him from serving on the bench. But here's where I think conservatives and many independent voters are going to see things differently. Lawyers represent clients. That's literally their job. If we start arguing that an attorney can never become a judge because they represented a controversial client, then we are undermining one of the fundamental principles of the legal profession. Every American, whether you love them or hate them, is entitled to legal representation. Attorneys are supposed to advocate for their clients. The nominee repeatedly stated that if confirmed, he would recuse himself from cases involving President Trump. That's exactly what ethical rules require. Judges recuse themselves all the time when there is a potential conflict. The system already has safeguards built into it. Yet despite those assurances, the questioning continued as though the mere fact that he represented Trump was itself evidence of wrongdoing. What I found especially interesting was the discussion about the reported $400,000 in legal fees. The nominee explained that any money paid would go to a massive law firm generating billions of dollars in revenue, and that his personal financial benefit would be minimal. Now, whether you agree with that explanation or not, the larger issue remains the same. The hearing seemed to assume guilt rather than establish it. Think about the precedent here. Would senators apply the same standard to attorneys who represented Barack Obama before judicial nominations? Would they apply it to lawyers connected to Joe Biden? Would they apply it to attorneys who worked for Democratic administrations? The answer many Americans are likely thinking is no. And that's exactly why these hearings have become increasingly political over the years. Instead of focusing on qualifications, experience, and legal reasoning, confirmation hearings often become opportunities to relitigate political battles. The hearing became even more political when the conversation shifted from financial questions to an article the nominee wrote as a college student nearly 3 decades ago. This is something we've seen again and again in Washington. A nominee writes something as a teenager or college student, and suddenly that becomes a major focus of a hearing decades later. To his credit, the nominee didn't dodge the question. He acknowledged that the language he used was harsh and unacceptable and stated that it reflected the views of a teenager rather than the person he is today. Now here's where Americans should ask themselves an important question. Do we believe people can grow? Do we believe people can mature? Do we believe that someone should be judged primarily on a college article written almost 30 years ago, or on a lifetime of professional conduct afterward? Because if we don't allow for growth and maturity, then very few people in public life would survive scrutiny. One of the most revealing moments came when the nominee explained that throughout his professional career, he has treated people equally regardless of sexual orientation and emphasized respect for everyone. That should matter. Actions matter. Professional conduct matters. A decades-old article may provide insight into someone's past thinking, but a lifetime of professional behavior provides insight into who they actually are today. What I think frustrated many conservatives watching this hearing was the broader pattern. For years, we've watched judicial nominees from the left receive relatively soft treatment, while conservative nominees are subjected to exhaustive investigations into their personal lives, political associations, religious beliefs, and professional relationships. Many Americans see a double standard. When a conservative nominee has ties to a Republican president, it's called a conflict of interest. When a progressive nominee has ties to a Democratic administration, it's often described as valuable experience. When a conservative expresses religious beliefs, concerns are raised about impartiality. When progressive activists are nominated, their activism is often celebrated. That perception of unequal treatment is one reason trust in Washington continues to decline. Now, let's be fair. Judicial independence is important. The judiciary must remain independent from political pressure regardless of who occupies the White House. Americans should absolutely ask questions about ethics, recusals, and transparency. Those are legitimate concerns. But there's a difference between asking questions and assuming corruption. There's a difference between oversight and political theater. And that's the line many viewers may feel was crossed during this hearing. What I saw was a nominee repeatedly explaining how he would follow ethical rules, recuse himself where appropriate, and uphold his oath of office. What I also saw was a hearing that often seemed less interested in those answers than in creating headlines about Donald Trump. At the end of the day, the real question isn't whether someone once represented President Trump. The real question is whether that individual has the integrity, legal knowledge, temperament, and commitment to the Constitution required to serve as a federal judge. That's the standard that should apply whether the nominee was appointed by a Republican president or a Democratic president. Because if we allow political affiliation to become the primary test for judicial service, then we're moving away from an independent judiciary and toward a system where judges are viewed as political extensions of whichever party appointed them. And that's dangerous for everyone. The Constitution deserves better than partisan score settling. The Senate deserves better than political grandstanding. And the American people deserve confirmation hearings that focus on qualifications rather than political narratives. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did Senator Booker raise legitimate concerns about transparency and conflict of interest? Or do you think this hearing became more about attacking President Trump than evaluating the nominee's qualifications? If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Freedom Forge, and share this with friends and family who care about the future of America's courts and constitutional system. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.